We work and work and work, and then we get burnt out. But is that normal? We need to ask ourselves, what are we supposed to do to avoid getting that burnout and allow ourselves to become successful? In this video, I'm going to share with you 5 different ideas that you can start to use to help yourself move forward and not get burnt out. If you're new to the channel, my name is Bennett Schwartz and I'm a high performance coach. I work with people both personally and professionally. So if you're looking to have a richer life, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Throughout our lives, there's going to be ups and downs emotionally. There are going to be times where we feel like we can control the world, and other times we can't get ourselves out of bed. And we need to ask ourselves, how can we keep ourselves on a high and do the work that needs to get done? Because at the end of the day, success really happens after doing a certain amount of work. And the sooner we can do that work, then the more successful we're going to be. And that brings me to my first point. You see, there's this debate about what really happens with success. Because when we want to become successful, what we really have to do is just constantly make sure we're doing the work that needs to get done. The work doesn't really care about how we're feeling. So as long as we're doing the work, we'll be able to move forward. But what happens is so many people get burnt out and they stop doing the work. And there's 2 different types of burnouts. There's the burnout of maybe doing something for a little bit, and then all of a sudden you're not really in the mood to be doing it anymore. But then there's the other burnout of, I've been doing this thing for 10 years and now I really don't like it, I can't stand it. And there's 2 different ways we can handle each one. But understanding that regardless of which type of burnout you're feeling, we can't really be controlled by our emotions. You see, if our emotions are the one that's driving the boat, what ends up happening is that we only do work when we're feeling it, and we don't do work when we're not feeling it. And especially nowadays when people are getting a little too emotional about any decision or anything that's really going on, we have to realize that if we can start to be more logical in the sense of, I need to be doing the work because the work needs to get done, as opposed to being more emotional and only doing the work when we're feeling it, we're going to be able to move forward. So recognizing even before we get burnt out, that we could frame it that regardless of how we're feeling, certain work needs to get done. And this happens with certain projects that I worked on, that I know regardless of whether I'm feeling it or not, I need to put in my 30 or 40 minutes. And as long as I do that, I know I'm going to become successful later on. Yes, there might be a time to pivot and there might be a time to say, you know what, it's not really worth it. But as long as we commit to the project, regardless of how we feel, we still have to take that action. So making sure that we're separating the emotion from the work that needs to get done can really start to help us make sure that we start moving forward, regardless of whether we feel burnt out or not. The second thing we need to understand is that there's usually one thing in our day that if we could focus on, if we could get done, it's going to be the small snowball that's going to turn into this big boulder. And if we could start to find out what it is, we're going to start to be able to take that action and allow it to snowball into something so much bigger. So if we are feeling down and we're not feeling so good about the work that we're doing, what is the one thing that we could start to do so we now know in the next 2 or 3 days we're going to get back on track? Making sure that we're not judging ourselves for the fact that we feel the way we feel, and making sure that we're going to be doing the small disciplines in order to take that step. That's going to be the thing that's going to get us moving forward. So I know for me personally, as long as I wake up early in the morning, the rest of my day is going to go great. Those are the days that I know I'm only going to be playing catch up. And if I'm not emotionally feeling something, I'm already beating myself up and it doesn't allow me to see that success. So what's your one thing that you know if you start to do, it's only going to help you become more successful? And if you're in a rut, it will really be able to pull you out of that puddle. When it comes to the third tip, we have to understand what is really on our list of things that we need to get done. You see, so many times people will come over to me and say, Bennett, I'm feeling burnt out. And we want to start to take the action, but they don't really know what action they need to be taking. And because there's a little confusion and because they feel a little bit lost, they end up not taking action. And because they don't take the action, they stay in this emotional state of feeling burned out. So if we could start to get real clear in terms of what is the process and what are the steps that we need in order to get ourselves moving forward and the action that needs to be taken, that's going to be the thing that's going to help us move forward. So getting really clear on your schedule is going to be something that could be so beneficial in terms of the success that you want. I was one time talking to a friend of mine who's a productivity coach, and I asked him, what's the biggest thing that most of your clients don't do? And he said, most of my clients don't put things on their schedule. And everybody knows that they should have a schedule. Everybody knows that they should have a to-do list of things that they need to be getting done every single day. But for some reason, they don't do it. So do you have a schedule? Do you know the work that you need to get done? And if the answer is yes, what is the first thing that you need to start moving forward in order to take that action? Because action breeds action, and the more we can start to move forward, the better off we're going to be. The fourth idea I heard from Ali Abdal, and it's in regards to all the people who get burned out from something that they've been doing for a long time. So they might know the work, they might know that sometimes they're feeling it, sometimes they're not feeling it, but over the long time, they don't want to be doing the thing that they're doing anymore. And what ends up happening is they put themselves in a certain situation where they don't really enjoy the work that they're doing. Something that they used to love, something that they might used to do as a hobby, but for some reason, they just can't stand it anymore. If we could build our schedules in a way that's enjoyable, it's going to allow us to give us that strength. You see, we all have this gas tank of energy, and throughout our days and throughout our years of doing work, the energy is going to be going down, and we need to ask ourselves, how could we refill our energy tank? Sometimes it might be taking a vacation, sometimes it might be working on a new project. Then we'll be able to constantly stay disciplined enough in order to see that success. Success does take time, and it's the reason why most millionaires in America are in their 50s. So if you haven't seen that success yet, just understand that it's going to happen over time. The longer we can stay with it, the more likely we're going to be successful. So if you find yourself burnt out and you're really just not in the mood to be doing the thing that you've been doing, try to find an area that you enjoy. Try to find something that you can add to your schedule that might be worth it. And by doing that, we're going to be able to fill that tank back up to allow ourselves to take that energy to move forward. And the fifth and final tip is to understand our why. You see, so many times people don't realize that the things that we're doing, the things that we want to be doing, we were passionate about. We had an idea. There was something more to it. And over time, our vision really gets lost. Instead of the big picture, it gets more into the minutia of what it is we need to be doing every single day. And over time, we forget really why it is that we're doing. So if we could start to get real clear on why it is that we're doing our thing and remind ourselves about it, it's going to give us the energy to allow ourselves to stay focused. And even during the tough times, we'll be able to put ourselves into it. It's one of the reasons why when people look to write a book, one person that they're talking to, it could be a made-up person, it could be a younger version of themselves, but what ends up happening is that when you're speaking to someone, when you have a bigger picture, when you're focused on someone other than yourself, you know why you're doing something, that could be the thing that really holds you in and gives you the energy to make sure that you're going to continue to see that success. Burnout does happen, but it doesn't mean that anything's wrong with you or with the work that you're doing. We're emotional beings, and our emotions are going to be up and down, and it could usually sometimes be a trigger to that really sets us off. But as long as we stay consistent with the work, as long as we don't let our emotions take over, we're going to be able to see that success that we're looking for. What are some other questions you have about burnout? Put them in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and make sure to watch this next video, which I really think you're going to find beneficial.